bus.
Yeah.
One time when he was still playing, I think it was his last year.
Yep.
Sunday. Yeah,
We're gonna be late right off the bat. We're gonna be late before we get to the.
We'll call order the county board meeting. Please join us for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it's good to see people out in the audience this morning. Roll call, please, Beth.
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Heinen.
Here.
Commissioner Gopinski.
Here.
Commissioner Pop.
Here.
Okay, anything to add to the agenda, Monty?
Mr. Chair, we have the following changes. Chris Berg would like to remove from the agenda award of construction contract for, okay, where did that go? I'm sorry, so that would be the third bullet point under Chris Bird at 9:30, where it says award a construction project. Chris tells me that it's a new contractor that bid, and he would like additional time to make sure this firm is adequately qualified. So he would like to remove that one
Okay.
from your agenda today. I would like to then to add an item under administrator, a third item under 905, update on county assessor recruitment, if I could, as the third item under county administrator. You have another piece of paper on the dais. It's the Finland engineering. That's already on your agenda. We just wanted you to see that Michelle Meyer had signed off on the contract. So those are the changes we have.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to
Any
approve.
changes from the board?
Oh, sorry. I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Well, the county board meetings are broadcasted live, video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. County board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the chair, of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off your cell phones or put your cell phones on vibrate. Thank you. Open forum. I believe we have people out there. Beth? Thank you. Monty, do I have to read this information in front of me first?
Open forum policy?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, you know.
Thank you.
If you feel it's important to remind folks, that's totally fine, of course.
I think the people in the audience,
For you right there, but
Yeah.
it's there.
I think the people in the audience know this. So first, we'll have Scott and Shelley.
May he go first?
Okay, go ahead, Jerry. We'll let you go, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate your taking time to listen to us today. First of all, I got good news. It's Groundhog's Day and it's cloudy. So, better things ahead. I'd like to talk today about County Road 50. And I want to very quickly give you a historical perspective on that. That road was planned to be paved in 1969. That's right, 69. And I happen to know because my dad was county commissioner in 69, and Jake's dad and Shelley's grandpa was county commissioner, and I remember the discussions about how he waited like 12 years to get that road programmed through the waiting process and the various funding mechanisms. And so he was so happy that in 1969 it was going to be paved, because everyone to the east, the Peschels and Hansmeyers and Henrys, then would have a good road to get across that part of the county to get to St. Cloud. And so 69 was not far ahead. In 1968, however, my dad was killed in a car accident in July, And as a result of that, the powers that be moved the money. Someone was appointed commissioner and the rookie commissioner had no clout, so the money was moved to other parts of the county. And so thus the waiting, and now 50-some years later, 54 years later, in 3 generations, again, County Road 50 was scheduled to be paved. And we thought it was gonna be this year. And then mysteriously, it disappears from the 5-year plan. So we've been waiting for this progression again, and it mysteriously disappeared from the 5-year plan. So I'm here to just ask you to reconsider paving County Road 50. It's an important road. It's a road that's used a lot. I farm on that road. I have equipment going down there virtually every day, but more importantly, it's an access for people to the east. And there, with some paving, there'd be some future growth on that. So I just ask that you reconsider. However, it slipped off the agenda to get back on the agenda. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sherry.
And I'm Shelley.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. We want to just also add to my father's comments and my uncle Jake's. He would have been here, but he is out of town. And we appreciate you listening. In terms of economic development, I'd like to just speak to that point for a minute. It was our understanding when the local option sales tax went into play that money would be used for economic development, which of course we all believe in for this county. In that road in particular, our family has had experience in building homes, in building developments. We know other landowners, on that road, and we believe there's lots of opportunities for development, which really does fit that definition of economic development. I think that was the intention on the road plan when that was allocated. In addition, it sounds like our understanding is there's been more revenue in that local option sales tax that has come in than perhaps was projected. And so I think there's more opportunity there as well. It was our understanding too that was part of the discussion when that tax was approved by the board at the time, that's how that money would be used. So we'd like to ask you to consider that in revising the road plan for this year and for the 5-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Warnie?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm here on 62, Road 62. We talked on great at length about 62 when I was on as a commissioner. I know the 5-year plan gets switched around once in a while because maybe there's more important roads, but I know 62 is a very expensive road, and that was probably one of the reasons why it got, so it ain't gonna be total reconstruction.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, there we
There we
go.
go. Thank you.
Yeah.
My hearing's going bad, but
I'd caution you though that, we found money for up the hill, we found money for 78 was a very expensive road. 62 is, it's gonna be because we gotta buy right away. But if it comes down to not doing it, I would caution that maybe we try to find the money before we mill and overlay it and not. There is people that do walk down that road on the sides, and when they meet people, they gotta go in the ditch. There's not a lot of people that walk there. It's a very narrow road. Machinery can't get over, so I would just caution you and take another closer look at it before you make a final decision. I think it's on the sales tax, and I think it's on the 5-year plan, I think. But I would like to see maybe take another look at it for a total reconstruction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Torn.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay, thank you. Moving forward.
Steve?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Peschel.
Last fall, we got farmers there that, they spread manure, and they went by our place in 62 for for a week straight, you know. And it's so narrow, they can't meet, so the empty wagons, manure wagon, they were driving the ditch, and we're just lucky we had a dry fall, we wouldn't have no road left there, so, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Just for the information, I know we're gonna be having a cow on all of this stuff shortly, so we are looking at it and taking consideration for this, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a good day, guys.
Okay, moving forward, consent agenda 1 through 7. What would we like to do with that?
Mr. Chair, if I could approve items 1 through 6, and I would also like to pull item 7, please.
Yep.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to pull 1 through 6. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Number
thank-
7.
Yep, number 7. Chris, if you could, I just briefly want to look at this. There's some change orders involved here to the tune of about 13,400, and overages ended up being at just shy of 7,000. So I was just gonna try to get a brief recap of why that is.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm trying to remember what the change orders were for now. So yeah, we had some change orders that add additional quantity to the project, and then our final payment isn't that full amount. So we have existing bid items that, if we go through there, some we overrun, some we underrun. A lot of times our quantities are based on estimates and based on actual field conditions at the time of construction, those quantities alter.
So what you're saying is, even though there was 13,400 in change orders, the net effect ended up being about 7,000 on the whole contract?
That's essentially what's happening here. So sometimes those items, we add items that we run into something that wasn't anticipated during the design, and we have to add an item to pay that contractor to do that work. And that's additional. But there's other items that, okay, we overestimated the amount of quantity we would need on a project, and so then we only pay for what we actually used on the project. And that often results in a net effect that doesn't match the total change order amount.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. I'll move to approve consent item 7.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on number 7?
Commissioner Heinen?
Yes.
So what, Chris, did most of that overrun come on the reconstruction or the asphalt part?
I don't recall. Is the pay voucher in the stack there? I might have to look at it. I believe most of it came on County Road 55.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember what our final pay. So like the bituminous, we pay for actual tons of delivered of bituminous material
Right.
To the project. I'll quickly scan here. For the change orders. Ah, yes, that's right. So our change orders was to add an incentive payment based on density. So that's the bituminous paving. By spec, this is not something that they can bid. It's based on what to spec. So we have a minimum compaction requirement. If the contractor meets or exceeds that, I shouldn't say meet, but if they exceed that compaction requirement, basically they're giving us a little bit better product than what our spec requires, they're allowed to receive an incentive payment. So that's what the change order was they could earn up to that 13,000 and some change on an incentive payment. So yeah, that's all on County Road. Well, I shouldn't say both. It's on both 55 and 79. So on the paving. To oversimplify it, the contractor exceeded the minimum specs and received an incentive payment for doing that on paving the bituminous roadway.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Chris, is that typical, the incentive part of that in a contract?
Yeah, I think in the county world though, it's more typical to do a disincentive. So when looking at bituminous construction, we have minimum specs, and nothing is a perfect world. So there's usually a range of things. But if they get outside of that acceptable range, sometimes it's better for the overall project to disincentivize the contractor as opposed to tearing it up, impacting traveling public. Sometimes you don't get as good a product as before. So it's more common, I think, in county worlds, county projects to do the disincentive and not the incentive. But then a lot of times contractors say, well, you're penalizing us, but never rewarding us for exceeding the specs. State construction, they'll have both. They'll have incentive and disincentive, and that's very common. Sometimes there's even early completion incentives. We don't do that either in the county road construction.
Commissioner Pop?
I think that's fine, but do we look at which part of the county we're doing roads in? I would think that County Road 55 up in the Rice area was pretty easy to meet, you know, them specs, knowing where it is, and probably not a lot of value to the county to have a road like that with incentives in it because of where, you know, the quality of soil underneath it. Now, it's $13,000, but I mean, it's still county money.
True. I think more of a traffic volume plays a bigger effect on that. If
Okay.
it's gonna be a higher volume roadway, we wanna make sure we get a good product that lasts longer. And we don't incentivize every county project. I think we look at the nature of the project, look at the traffic volume, look at the likelihood of being able to get back there in 10, 15 years to do some maintenance work on it.
Okay. I guess as long as it's traffic volume incentive road and laden, I'm okay.
Yeah, so this is in like the top layers of the pavement, the base. I think this is irregardless of the base. You're right. It's very easy to construct it because it's a lot of sand, so dry soil conditions. It's easier to construct that. But when you get to the base, a lot of times a lot of things are equal. Then they should have built a good road up to that point, and then putting the icing on the cake. How good of icing did they put on the cake is what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any further questions on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Gopinski, discussion regarding auditor treasurer residency.
Oh, we did.
What's that? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know my name is behind this, but as some may know, the county board's been looking into residency issues with the auditor treasurer brought forward by residents within the county, or some residents within the county. All I wanted to do was put it on the agenda today so that we can look at a time next meeting to look into this and talk about it publicly. As we know, we've been advised by outside counsel, we can't talk about this in a closed session. We need to talk about it in the public to get opinions, thoughts, direction, everything like that. So that's what I'm doing, is bring it up so we can set some time at our next board meeting.
Okay. Monty, you want to put that on the agenda for our next board meeting, please? And probably put it towards the end of that agenda. Because
Yes,
it could
will
be
do.
time consuming.
Okay, will do.
Great, yep, and all of us have been aware of all of this going on too, so thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Monty, consider a contract amendment with Finland Engineering for additional broadband services.
Right. Well, we've been working with Finland Engineering for a few months now, and they've completed their feasibility study. The feasibility study served several purposes. Basically, it kind of told us what's the state of broadband in Benton County, who has good service, who doesn't, where should we focus our time and our attention and the resources of the county to improve broadband. This agenda item before you really takes us now into action steps. We've studied, now it's time to act. So basically, Finley has proposed these various action steps that you see in the Exhibit B. And essentially, they're going to assist us with preparing an RFP out there to the provider community and help us then receive and review these proposals from providers, help us then potentially negotiate agreements with providers. Again, they bring to the table this technical expertise and their experience in doing this kind of work to assist our committee and again, ultimately making grants to providers and addressing the broadband needs of the county. This was brought forward to the Broadband Committee at its last meeting. They recommend that you approved it. The Broadband Committee also selected a small subcommittee that's going to work very closely with Finley to do the RFP, meet with providers, evaluate proposals, and then ultimately bring agreements back to the county board. So with that, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Kapinski, anything you wish to add on this item?
The only thing I would say is they've been outstanding to work with, and they've really stepped up and helped this broadband committee along a lot. You can tell they're experienced.
Yep.
And they're always answering the questions that are raised, so they do a great job.
One of the other things I'll bring up is Doug has made it pretty clear if there was ever a slam dunk on getting grant money, we're about it. So instead of spending all of our ARPA money on broadband before we can get these grants, getting this in place, and hopefully reaching out and getting some more of this border money. Any other grants out there, we gotta at least go down that avenue.
Absolutely, I agree, and just to continue on that, we want to chase down all the grant dollars we can find, and you're right, without spending all the ARPA money up front.
Yep,
So-
correct.
And we have plenty of time for the grant money?
Well,
Application
we're
process
gonna
and
miss the
everything?
first round right now. Cause the first round was coming out in February.
You talking about border to border?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or there was, I think the first round in February was actually for 2021, correct? And then there's gonna be a summer one being let as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money out there, and I think to show, just do our due diligence with the money side of things, we need to look at that option and gain other money, because if we get more money from grants, we can use the ARPA money for other things.
So it's not gonna slow down our process that you guys are speeding up quickly?
We still got our foot on the pedal, I think, so, right, Chris?
But I think it's important to remember too, we're still under this 2024 deadline to
Yep.
encumber the funds in 2026 to spend them, and here we are already, February of 22, and time goes by so quickly. So that 24 date's gonna sneak up on us, so I think, yeah, it's probably important to forge ahead. And one thing too, there's gonna be billions of dollars chasing broadband resources around this country. And who knows how long these lead times could get to secure the services of, installers and acquire the raw materials. So I think that's a definite concern our committee has.
And Mr. Chair, as Monty just said, Finley's pretty excited to be on board with us for where we're at in this process. They're ready to rock and roll. We've moved ahead on this enough that they're ready to just take it and go.
Yep, and they've made it clear, we're way farther ahead in this process due to a lot of past boards already moving broadband along the city of Foley. So we're in a good position to take advantage of some of these grants out there.
Commissioner Pop?
How many counties is Finley chasing,
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm in terms of how many counties are they working with?
Right.
I'll ask Chris. I'll ask Chris Konichi that question. I don't know myself.
I mean, you can be overworked, just because you're we're in good shape, we're ahead of the game, but if you're overworked, it still don't help. that
Well,
part.
and Commissioner Pop, I think since we're at this spot of the game and we can get them on board now,
Yeah, right.
they're ready to go.
They're ready to go.
So that's why we don't want to wait and
Yeah.
come back to them and then have them say, well, we've got 4 counties ahead of you.
Yeah,
Yep.
So,
I totally agree.
Oh, yeah, no. It is moving pretty fast. Thank you guys for that. Appreciate it.
so with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Finley contract as presented with a not to exceed number.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this one? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Next one, Monty.
Well, it's time.
Discussion
it's time of year for
process.
the most fun we can possibly have.
Yep.
And that's department head evaluations. So I especially I think with three new board members, I wanted to ask for your feedback on how we should conduct department head evaluations. Now I'll give you a little history. So like for example, when I first started here, we would give each board member our standard evaluation form, and then they would fill it out. And our HR director would summarize all those comments. Then we would sit down and review those with the department heads. And actually, we were doing it in actually open meetings. And then we realized, oh, we should do that in closed session because that's private. So then we started doing closed sessions. And then I think over the years, it was kind of tough for board members really to fill out those forms. They don't really work with department heads every day. Kind of having a tough time filling out those forms. And I said, okay, how about this? I'll just meet with you all individually, get your feedback, and then I'll write up an evaluation and then share that with department heads. So we went along that path for several years. Last year, this time, we kind of took a really different approach, and I think our two current board members remember that. Where with myself personally, you invited all the management team members in to come in and talk to you in closed session. And then with the other appointed department heads, I think I still met with you individually, but we also did these employee surveys using SurveyMonkey. We sent out this huge survey, got all kinds of feedback, and then you met with those folks individually in closed session. So that was kind of how things worked last year. So I'm just curious if, and I should mention too, is that I saw recently there was a new administrator in Morrison who was sending out an email asking counties, how do you do department head evaluations? And no two counties do this the same. So I would want to give you the impression that there's a right way, there's a wrong way. Everyone does this differently. I think it really comes down to what do you feel you need to do, what works for us. So again, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do this.
I can tell,
Thoughts, discussion.
I can tell you, I did like how we did it the last time with the Survey Monkey.
Okay.
I thought that was very beneficial for us to gather information. Commissioner Pop.
Yeah, I guess from the ones that I've done, I thought last year was probably the most efficient. You put a lot of weight on what the people that person surveys, or people,
Right,
who
so-
they manage.
Yeah.
When it comes back like that, if everybody knows we had one department head that shot way up and some that weren't quite so good. So I think that's a great way to do it.
Do you like the survey?
I like the
survey information. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
And
That was easy. I mean, I really didn't.
And then we brought them in and talked about the survey.
And then you brought him in and you talked about, yeah.
I think that process was very, very well done. The only thing I would stress is just because somebody gets a bad mark on something, it's not that they're gonna get in trouble, it's more of a correction item.
Correct.
And, these are made for, so we can correct people. Everybody needs a correction every now and then, so.
Okay. Again, that was easy. I have the survey still. We still have the subscription with SurveyMonkey, and that's pretty easy to send out. So.
Mr.
So
Chair.
then it sounds like we would do the survey still and then give you all the survey feedback, meet individually with each department head in closed session. That part really has to be private because
Yep.
it's performance evaluations are considered private data.
Yep. Commissioner Johnson.
Just explained it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I was gonna ask. Thank you.
Yep.
Great.
So at this point, if we're gonna primarily use the surveys and just maybe some discussion between, I wasn't necessarily thinking I would write up an evaluation per se. I guess, well, the only thing I know we have to do is that when you do an evaluation of of department head in closed session, you must present a summary of that at your next regular board meeting, so we have to write something up there. But usually those are pretty brief.
Okay.
So I personally think just that discussion, face-to-face dialogue back and forth is probably the best. I don't necessarily know we have to have the written, sometimes it's good to have those in the record, in the person's performance evaluation. I could certainly, do a summary afterwards and have that in the file. I think probably just for his history and so on, and if issues come up, you've got that in the file. So I could definitely do a summary of the discussion, perhaps a summary of the feedback, and that can go in the file. So, okay.
Okay.
Well, then we'll get the surveys out, and then at some point we'll schedule those closed sessions as part of a regular board meeting. Maybe so it isn't a super long meeting. Maybe we could do like 2 one time and then 2 another, something like that. Yeah, okay.
Monty, how long will this survey take? Couple weeks?
Oh, at the most.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily leave it out there forever and ever. No, yeah. Usually the way these surveys work is you get a ton of responses in the first couple of days,
Yeah.
and then it just drops right
Drops
off.
down.
So, you've probably maxed out within a week what you're gonna get. Yeah.
So we'd probably be looking in March then, right? For all of this
Yeah,
stuff?
I would wanna get these done fairly soon.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, update on county assessor.
Okay, so we've had our assessor recruitment open for about a month. We have 4 applicants that we'd like to interview. Most of those actually came in on the last day. Of course, as you know, we're required by statute to have a county assessor who holds the proper certifications. So here's my thought to you, is that we would go ahead and in our selection committee, which includes Commissioner Hunter, Commissioner Kapinski, myself, Johanna, we're gonna invite Steve Barenbrinker, of course, and then Roxanne as Land Service Director to be part of that. Do those interviews on Monday, February 14th. One of my concerns, though, is let's just say, for example, that isn't successful. In other words, we don't find someone we wish to offer the position to, well, then what's next? The conversations I've had with Johanna, I would like to suggest then that our next step would be is we use the services of an executive search firm to help us find someone, because we of course must have someone. Johanna has contacted a couple of firms that do the services. One of those is David Drown Associates. Another is called Baker Tilly, used to be Springstead. The services for DDA are $22,000, and for Baker Tilly, $24,000. DDA offers you a 2-year guarantee, so if that person leaves within 2 years, they'll do another recruitment for you. Baker Tilly, it's just a 1 year. So here's what I'm going to suggest to you, and that is, if our interviews don't prove successful, I would then ask your consent then to move forward then with selecting a search firm. So in other words, we won't do it right now, but if this process doesn't work, then we have your agreement to then go with essentially DDA and use their services to help find someone. One of the benefits of a search firm is, they can contact current assessors directly where they work, and we really can't do that. It's not really appropriate for us, frankly, our HR director, to call up the assessor in Stearns County and say, hey, I'm trying to actively recruit people from other counties, and we probably don't want to do that, but an executive search firm can. That's what I'm asking for today, is that hopefully on the 14th we'll have success, but if we don't, I think we need Plan B. So.
Commissioner Pop?
Yeah, I totally agree with this, that we need to have, a backup plan, and I really would suggest that we go with David Drone because they've done work for the county before.
Mr. Chair, would it make sense, Monty, since you're interviewing the 14th, we have a board meeting the next day? Do you need action on this today, or could we move on at the 15th?
Not necessarily, no, it could wait until the 15th.
Because you're not gonna move ahead with it anyways until after the 14th, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's right that next day. So this is more just kind of a heads up.
You okay to table it till the
thoughts for
15th?
you.
Well, we
Yeah.
don't, we could just have a consensus that we agree with this, and that way they could have everything ready to go by the 15th.
So have it on the 15th agenda?
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that.
I can definitely bring it back on the 15th, sure. That's fine.
Monty.
You're right. I mean, we'll know on the 14th, we should have a good sense of whether we have someone we can offer the position to on the 14th.
I would have to agree that we need a backup plan on this one.
I guess, and I'd like to have everything in place.
Yeah.
We can move on the 15th.
Right.
If we need contract signed or whatever, that all comes back to us on the 15th.
It's whatever you're comfortable with. If you would rather wait until the 15th to take action, or if you're comfortable today, again, kind of a contingent approval, if then kind of situation, that's fine. I don't have a strong opinion, so.
My only thought, commissioners, is that we did add this to the agenda today for action, so to me, it'd be appropriate to table it to the 15th. And it'll be on the agenda, and we can act on it. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just trying to follow a little order here.
Either way works for me, I think, so.
Mr. Chair, why don't we just do a consent that if we're all agreeing with this, and then move on that part?
We can do that.
How would you like to do it?
That's how I would like to do it, because that way, I think we should put this in process. Get this moving forward.
Well, my understanding is this is not gonna be put in process until
Until
after
after the
14th.
14th, that's correct.
Well, one thing we could do certainly in the intervening time is we could reconnect with DDA and say, look, okay, if this doesn't work, we're gonna use your services. So at least in other words, we have some understandings in place.
Okay.
With
Yeah.
DDA,
fair.
we got their standard agreement, we're rolling, so as of 14th, we're ready to go with Plan B then.
That's fair.
Monty, do you have times yet for the interviews?
I do not.
Okay. 'Cause
Emily's
I'm
working
actually-
on that. Emily wants to make sure, have you spoken with Emily yet this morning?
No.
She needs to speak with you before you leave, yeah.
Okay.
Get times, yeah,
Okay. I'm actually heading back into town from vacation.
on the 14th,
Yeah.
okay.
You're coming in early, right?
Possibly, if the 14th doesn't work, we could go with the afternoon of the 15th, of course, that's board meeting day.
Okay.
That's
The only reason I'm bringing that up is for exactly what we were just talking about. So,
That's our backup date, I think, is the 15th.
okay.
Yeah, so, okay, good for me, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next, Nadine Inman, Audit Treasurer, requests permission to submit 2022 HAVA grant application. Nadine, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So if you recall, about a month ago, I was here with another grant for elections, and I had mentioned at that time there were 3 grants coming from the state for elections and election equipment and election security. So this is the second grant that's available to the county, the HAVA grant. Help America Vote Act, and what this grant is for is money that can be utilized for cybersecurity and the security of the elections. So I am here this morning, like before, needing the board to give approval for us just to submit the grant application. Benton County is slated to get that $28,884.09. That is the amount that we would get for the HAVA grant. At this time, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so at this time, we have nothing really set in stone, but we are earmarking to utilize that grant money, 20,000 of it for helping with our cybersecurity of the elections, and about the other 9 that will be left over for the election security. So again, I would just like the board's approval here so that we can get the grant application submitted. And then we can come back forward and discuss what we'll be utilizing those funds for.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Nadine, what do you think the chances are that we get the whole 105?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We're not getting
crapshoot?
really clear direction.
Okay.
From the state on some of this. So we get the grant application, we get a deadline, then we start asking a bunch of questions. And some of the questions that we do ask, they don't have concrete answers for us. One particular thing on this was, do we have a deadline date of when to utilize the funds? And the answer we got from the state at this time is not at this time. So, but I think it's important, Jen, you talked about getting those grant monies in, and this is money that can be utilized for the cybersecurity of our elections. And so if you guys would, agree to have us get that submitted, I'll get that submitted today, and then you'll probably be seeing me again when we get the third go-around of money, so.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve a resolution granting permission for the Auditor Treasurer's Office to apply for the 22 Help America Vote Act grant.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Beth will need that resolution today. Okay, thank you.
Next up, Roxanne, Land Service. Establish a date and time for County Board of Appeal and Equalizations, or Special Board of Appeal and Equalizations for 2022 assessment year. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So before you have the request to set a special board of appeal and equalization for the 2022 assessment year. Had I known this was going to be coming forward, I would have prepared for it a little sooner so I didn't rush all of you into appointing an individual. But I will add it to the list of, I think I provided you guys a list previously of who your appointments are. This will be added, so it's not a last minute decision. So anyways, what we're looking for is a setting of that date, which generally it's a Monday. It does need to be in June and that particular week, the 13th through the 17th. So we're looking at June 13th, 2022 from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And I have contacted all of the appointees and they are willing to serve. I did mention that June 13th date and they are all okay with that. So in addition to that, also setting the per diem for those board members.
Mr. Chair, I move that we set Monday, June 13th, 2022 for the Special Board of Appeals and Equalizations, and we set the per diem as what is stated at $150.
Mr. Chair, and I'll second that. Commissioner Poppy, okay with setting the time then, I think too, from 6:30 to 7:30 PM?
7:30.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right,
Thank you. Okay, next, Roxanne.
Okay, so the next item is for an AIS grant. And generally speaking, these have gone on the consent agenda, similar to the SCORE grants. But I thought being this one is quite significant, I wanted to present it to the board just to give you guys a full explanation of the request for the costs. Little Rock Lake Association is requesting $105,000 out of our AIS fund for the purchase of a weed harvester, transport trailer, and a dump trailer for that particular machine, and then the first year's operation and maintenance costs. So your labor, your storage, fuel, all of that associated with it. We did discuss this in quite a bit of detail at two separate AIS committee meetings, and the ultimate recommendation was to approve the grant request and forward it on to the county board. With this, it would be very similar to a SCORE grant application for material or equipment purchases, where we would have a purchase monies security agreement in that this equipment would go back to the county in the event that it is up for sale or not being used during that first 5 years. After 5 years, it would be the property of the Little Rock Lake Association. With that, there's a UCC filing so that if they did try to sell it, the purchaser would be notified that there is a lien against that particular item. So with that, it does take up quite a bit of our funding. However, I just forgot to grab the spreadsheet. We do end up having, after $105,000, we still have about $58,000 in our account. And then we'll get another 34 throughout the year in two separate payments, 34,000. So I think it's a great way to spend the money and to draw down that account a little bit. I believe in the future, Little Rock Lake Association will be coming forward on an annual basis for grant monies to support the ongoing operations and maintenance for at least several years following this purchase.
Mr. Chair. Roxanne, do you foresee the $34,000 amount staying fairly steady for the years coming forward, or what's your thoughts there?
I think we may see sometimes they may add a little bit to it, but I don't see it significantly increasing.
It's based, the amount that we get is based upon the number of boat landings in your county. So obviously, I don't think that's necessarily changing rapidly over the years. And it's been pretty stable now for about 5 years or so, 6 years, AIS has been around.
There has been a push, though,
Or more money.
for more money,
So-
yes.
It never really seemed necessarily in jeopardy to this point. So I would say, it's probably pretty stable, yeah.
Yeah.
And did
Yes, I think it's going to be coming in. As far as an increase, I also think that's possibly, I don't think it's gonna go away anytime
And
soon.
did I understand you correctly? It doesn't all come in at once. You get it a couple times during the year.
Correct, they get it, end of July and end of December.
Okay, thank you.
And that's
Commissioner Pop.
go ahead.
So, yeah, I know, from AMC Environment, there's a lot of them, there's a bunch of counties that are pushing to have this increased. Basically, some of the ones that got, 1,100 lakes in their county or something. Because they spend it as fast as it comes in. We're just, we haven't spent it, and I think it's a good deal. The Little Rock Lake Association worked hard to get that lake cleaned up somewhat. This is one of the ways we can keep it, and the county definitely benefits from this.
Commissioner Gopinski?
I was just gonna mention that Micah has brought this up
Yeah.
before too, that they're trying to increase
Okay.
this as well, so.
So there could be more money, and we did have a large discussion at that, about how the Lake Association has to come back every year, you know, to grant that they were kind of looking for a 3-year or a 3-year operating deal at first.
At least
but
the next years.
Yeah, but, I mean, they have to come back every year, so if the money dries up, I don't know what we'll be doing. But I think it's a good deal, and I'll make that motion that we approve this.
I'll
Second.
second.
I have a question.
Hang
Get a
on.
second
We got a
first.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Beth? Commissioner Schlangen?
I see the matching funds at the 11,000, that would need to be addressed too, right?
So, the Little Rock Lake Association will be supplying $11,000
They will,
in support of this. So the actual total cost is $116,000. They're requesting $105 from us, and their matching funds will be that 10% at at 11,000.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. Any further discussion? With that, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hope it works.
Yeah, right.
You'll be reporting back to us, right?
I did, on a comment, I did see on one of the Clearwater Lake, is that what I told you, Frank? So I was down that way, and there was this thing out in the lake, and I mean, I'll have to tell you guys, I think it's a slow process to get this done. I mean, it's not like you're gonna go out there and go back and forth on the lake. I mean, it was maybe a mile and a half or so per hour that they were
They
going.
tend to move slower than
Yeah, it's a
usual.
slow process, so, I appreciate you guys taking that on.
Did they give you like how long it would take?
Basically, there's like 1 or 2 acres an hour or something. We're focusing down on a couple of patches, probably not to exceed 100 acres on the lake.
Okay.
We're gonna go after thick beds and try to convert them from curly leaf into native weeds. So we're gonna be working on relatively small parts of the lake and very targeted. We won't be going shore to shore.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Right.
Thank you. With this time, I'll turn it over to the Human Services Board Chair, Commissioner Johnson.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Heinen. We'll call to order our Human Services Board. Need an approval or amendments to agenda. Anything to change, Bob?
No.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
motion and a second to approve our agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Right.
All right, move on to the consent agenda. What are your wishes with the consent agenda today?
I'll move approval of the consent agendas item 1 and 2.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 1 and 2. Any further discussion in regards to those agenda items? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Bob, you have any updates for us? I see Jacqueline's on with us. I'll bet she'll do the COVID-19, but how about you?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Jacqueline, could we get the good morning, by the way. Let me get COVID-19 update, please.
You need to share screen?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you for your time today on the agenda.
Thank you for presenting.
Should be yours. There we go. Yep. Just bump it up a little bit.
All right. So I'd like to start out today by providing you with a situation update for our county. The information that I am presenting today is current as of yesterday, January 31st. One note as we get started here is I would like to comment that Minnesota Department of Health has reported that the recent pandemic surge is creating the highest volume of lab reports since the beginning of the pandemic. So we are seeing delays with data reporting. However, this is the best information we have. While it's likely an undercount or an underrepresentation at this point in time, we do continue to update our data dashboard Monday through Friday with the information that's available to us and continue to monitor all of these numerous indicators to really identify what those trends look like with the level of community transmission for COVID. So we'll start out with a review of our Benton County Public Health dashboard for COVID. We currently have 449 active cases of COVID-19. In cumulative, we have 12,853 total cases, 532 total hospitalizations, 96 total ICU cases, and 159 total deaths. For the CDC level of community transmission for our county, this is a scale of low, moderate, substantial, and high. We're currently at a level of high community transmission. Our case rate for our county is at 1,993.2 per 100,000, and our percent test positivity is at 25.16%. For context, we'd really like to see the percent test positivity. That should be under 5% for the 7 days. And the case rate per 100,000, we'd like to see that at less than 100 new cases per 100,000 in the past 7 days. Here is a look at our COVID-19 case rates or case counts for our youth per week. So those white boxes, those indicate the current week in comparison to the same week the year prior. I'd like to draw your eyes over here to the right of the screen. This is where we've been at in the recent weeks. We do see a decrease in cases for those 12 to 17-year-olds in comparison to the recent weeks. That's the yellow line here. We also see similar case counts for those 5 to 11 years old in comparison to the recent weeks, and that's in purple. However, for those 4 years old and younger, we see a slight increase in case counts for that age group in comparison to those recent weeks, and that's indicated in the green line there. I do want to just comment that, looking at this from week to week could just be a variation, so we really do need to look at this over time to really know if this is going to trend in a certain direction. So for us to determine if we've reached our peak or if we're starting to see a decline in cases, we'll have to continually watch this over the next few weeks to see how this trends. Here's a look for our adult COVID-19 case counts per week. Again, the white boxes indicating the current week in comparison to the same week the year prior. Looking again at the right of the screen, here's where we've been at in recent weeks. We see a slight decrease in our adult age groups in comparison to those recent weeks, but we'll again continue to monitor these adult weekly COVID cases for trends to determine where we're at as far as this wave of the pandemic. Here's a look at our county vaccination rates. In general, I'm happy to report we've seen an increase in all of our areas except for those 65 and older. That remained consistent at 82.8%. For the total population, our vaccination rate for those receiving at least one dose for the vaccine against COVID-19 is at 52.6%. And for comparison, the state rate for the total population receiving at least one dose is at 69%. For 5 and older, that's the age group that's currently eligible for vaccination. Our rate is at 56.5%. In comparison, the state rate for 5 and older is at 73.6% for receiving one dose of vaccination. Vaccination continues to provide protection from severe illness and hospitalization and death from COVID-19, and we'd like to continue to see this dark green, this line increase as more individuals are vaccinated. And then here's just a look at our information from our local health partners, and they have reported seeing hospitalizations stabilize and decline in recent weeks. The testing positivity rate has remained high. It's a slight decrease from the last week. It decreased about 0.6% from the prior week, but overall it has plateaued upwards of 30% for the 7-day positivity rate. So here's where we're at, and you can see that it's sort of plateaued, and it has plateaued at a very high rate. So again, for test positivity, typically we want to see those under 5% for the week. We'll continue to monitor this indicator. We're also looking at test positivity in comparison to the CDC's metric and also our local testing center metric, and all of those metrics continue to remain at a high rate for test positivity. The other thing I want to comment on is just keeping in mind that the positivity rates are likely below that of the actual rates, as this does not include those at-home test kits or other testing platforms that are not reported to the CDC or the Minnesota Department of Health or obtained through our local health partners. And then recommendations. Vaccination is still our best tool that we have to prevent COVID-19 infection. Everyone 5 years of age and older should receive their COVID-19 vaccine and receive a booster dose when eligible. As of yesterday, we now have 2 fully approved FDA COVID-19 vaccines. Moderna received its approval yesterday, and Pfizer has been approved for quite some time. And Johnson & Johnson is still underneath emergency use authorization through the FDA. Wearing a mask, a well-fitting medical-grade mask in indoor public settings and crowded outdoor settings. Getting tested, especially if you have symptoms of COVID-19 or have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. Staying home when sick, washing hands frequently, avoiding those large crowds, and then avoiding exposure, especially if you have a medical condition or live with someone with a medical condition that puts them at a higher risk for severe illness from COVID. And lastly, I would just like to end with some resources. So for anyone looking for a COVID-19 vaccine or for a COVID-19 test, there's some information there, some links. You can also just Google Find My Test or Find My Vaccine with MDH, and you should be able to find those links as well. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Members, any questions for Jacqueline?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Jacqueline, in a nutshell, it sounds like we've hit our peak and it sounds like it's coming down. I heard the news say yesterday that it's rapidly declining at this point. Is that correct?
You know, we'll continue to monitor that. It's hard to say from week to week. What we've been seeing through other areas of the state is that typically the peak is lasting about 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll see that decline. So time will tell us if we've hit that peak, and we'll likely know that once we start to monitor this trend a little bit longer here.
Okay. Mr. Chair, what was the date for our mask?
22nd.
The 22nd?
February 20, yeah, so we were gonna invite Jacqueline back at your next board meeting for some discussion about whether or not you feel it's important to either extend the mask requirement or allow it to lapse on the 22nd.
Yep.
Okay.
From my standpoint, I don't want to extend it. That's just me, so.
I would share in that same conversation that hopefully this peak is reached and we can see the decline.
So in 2 weeks, we'll have that discussion then.
Yep.
15th.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, members, for Jacqueline? Jacqueline, I have just one. Does Benton County Public Health follow MDH or CDC's definition of being vaccinated? As I know your presentation showed at least one shot. What does that mean? A second shot, booster after booster after booster? How do we define it?
Sure. I can pull up some information here on the vaccination recommendations. So what I'm looking at here is the Minnesota Department of Health recommendation for vaccination. And so I'll just put this slide up here. And so that definition, so 2 doses, so if we look at Moderna, 2 doses is fully vaccinated. That's the 28 days apart for those 2 doses. Receiving that booster dose, that would be then up to date, be considered up to date.
Okay.
For Pfizer, it would be the same definition, 2 doses is fully vaccinated. The booster dose would then be that up to date. And then Johnson & Johnson, it's a single dose for fully vaccinated, and then the booster dose for that up to date.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Members, any other questions for Jacqueline before we let her get back to her duties? All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. Have a great day.
Thank you for the information.
Members,
Thank you as well.
members, anything else? Or Bob, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. We'll adjourn our Human Services
Thanks,
Board
Bob.
and
Thank you.
reconvene our regular board meeting. Back to Commissioner Heinen.
Thank you. With that, we've got Chris Berg up. Update on countywide bridge after 2021 inspection cycle. Always good news.
I wish. No, I think
Started off like that.
Yeah.
it's good. We are tasked with inspecting all bridges in our county. And a bridge by Minnesota definition has a span of 10 feet or more, whereas the federal definition is 20 feet or more. So what that does is it brings in a lot of culverts that we have to inspect. Furthermore, state statute also says that the county engineer is tasked with inspecting township bridges and any bridges in cities under 5,000, or any cities that do not regularly employ a city engineer, meaning they don't have a staff engineer. So, oh, here, now I want, which one do I want? I want this one. So this year, we inspected about 66 bridges and culverts across our county. And it comes time to review our priority for replacing those bridges, or at least doing some substantial maintenance on those. And so we have this tool that's available to us called Brim Tool. Oh, here, I should probably share this screen, so those at home can follow along, because this is so riveting. What we call the Brim Tool, Bridge Replacement and Improvement Management tool for locals. And why this is critical is because this helps us to acquire the bridge grants to help pay for the cost of replacement. It used to go off of a term called sufficiency rating. Now, it's kind of funny. It seems like across our state, there were so many bridges that had a low enough sufficiency rating that made them eligible for funding. We needed to come up with a different tool to help prioritize them. So sometimes this corresponds to structurally deficient bridges, but not always. I do want to point out that in our county, we have 112 bridges total. And we have 12 bridges that are considered structurally deficient, and that's based on a number of factors. Bridges have things called elements, and each one of those elements are inspected and rated, and those are figured in to come up with a sufficiency rating and determine if it's structurally deficient. Across the statewide, the average is about 4.3% of bridges in our state are structurally deficient. We're sitting at over 10% of our bridges in our county are structurally deficient. So 12 doesn't sound like that much, but it's 10% of our bridges are considered structurally deficient. So, but we just can't go off of structural deficiency. So we use this tool, this BRIM tool, that rates all of our bridges. And we look at this factor called LPI. It stands for Local Planning Index. To be eligible for state bridge grant funds, it has to have an LPI rating of less than 70. And so we have a number of bridges that meet that requirement. But this is based on recent inspection. So all of our bridges are on this, and we even have, as us engineers, we like to look at what is causing that reduction or that LPI rating. So just some colorful bar graphs that are kind of exciting to engineers, but not always exciting to others. So looking at our tool here, these are the bridges that would be eligible for state bridge grant funding in our county. Although, I do want to point out, these two bridges here that I highlighted are township bridges. We have already received approval to use bridge grant funding. That was the bid opening we had Friday that we're not ready to award a construction contract yet. So those are already going to be taken off the list within the next year. Then this L0072, this is a bridge in Maywood Township that's currently closed. We have been told that it would not receive state bridge grant funding due to the extremely low traffic volume on it. Very low, 10, 15 vehicles a day is all we've ever recorded on that. So it may not ever receive state funding. But since it is a bridge that is still in existence today, it stays on our inventory and shows up as a structurally deficient bridge with a low LPI. These next two bridges, L0032 and 05519, these are our county bridges on County Road 51 and 67. Once again, we already received funding for those, and we've awarded a construction contract to Landwehr Construction. We're hoping this summer, well, we know this summer those will be replaced with box culverts. L09 or L9200, that's in Watap Township. We do have a contract awarded to replace that to Treader, Marvin Treader Incorporated. That will be replaced this summer as well. And then L2410 is a bridge right over here in Foley here that we have programmed. We have not received the funding for it, but we are planning to replace that. And we want to coordinate that with possibly a city project on that 2nd Avenue as well. So that's kind of what we're waiting on there. But it leaves these other bridges, these ones in purple that we're kind of focused on now as a highway department. So we'll take a look at this 05518 bridge. Yes, so this is on, it doesn't say it here, but this 05518 is County Road 51, just east of the one that we are already replacing. County Road 51, just west of CASA 6, so southeast of town here. This is the one I think I've talked to the board before. This summer, since we had very low water levels, we were able to see things that we haven't seen before, and what we've seen was kind of shocking to us. We have severe deterioration of the steel piling that's basically supporting the bridge. Well, we have what we call section loss, meaning so much of the steel has rusted away that it's thinner than what it was when it was originally constructed. And so since it's thinner, it has less capacity to hold up the bridge, to put it in simple terms. So much so that we have complete rust through. We have daylight that you can see through the piling. So that was a concern that we had. And so we inspected it. We even brought some MnDOT bridge inspectors in to kind of look at that with us. We used some tools to actually measure the thickness and compare that to what these piles were designed at, what they came from the factory thickness, and know that we have significant section loss basically at this water line, which most of the time is covered up and we had not been able to see until this year. So that is a bridge that has become a higher priority to be replaced, possibly within the next 5 years. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But we'll move on to our next bridge, which was...
Mr. Chair, could I interrupt you really quick, Chris?
You may,
in regards
yes.
to that bridge, I know that you reposted it.
Correct.
How about, is it appropriate or having discussion about school buses not going over that thing? Because as a driver, I would ignore postings. Because we're driving everywhere we can,
Question
right?
for Sheriff.
I mean, it's not,
Got that, Sheriff?
I'm just saying, the school buses drive wherever they wanna drive.
Well, yeah, because to be honest, I mean, the bridge doesn't care who's driving on it, they care about the weight.
That's
right. So bridges technically, or buses probably, or should technically follow the posting for a single unit vehicle. Right now, I believe that is at 18 tons, so 36,000 pounds. So what's the capacity of a school bus? What's the average weight of a child nowadays? So
I just wonder if that's some discussion that maybe shouldn't happen with Kevin. I think that particular road probably doesn't have, it may have bus traffic on it that just travels it.
Sure.
Not necessarily
School pickup, yeah.
using it for pickup.
I can tell you we had that same concern on Maywood Township Bridge when we were out there inspecting it and we saw a school bus go across it and we thought, oh, this is warranted to be closed.
Right.
You're right.
I'm not trying to say it's okay for the bus to do that, but typically the buses are traveling wherever they need to travel.
Sure.
And if we know that it's deficient ahead of time and.
It could be, it's probably worth a discussion because it could be simple as a direction.
Right.
Is it loaded or is it half empty at the time that they're crossing that bridge?
And do they
that
even
could,
need
that
to,
could,
is the question.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Can they go around? I wouldn't want to go around the block, but I don't know that they have to travel it, I guess is my point.
Sure.
So it may be worth a discussion with him to just say, hey.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can share with him. It's worth us sharing with him a map. We have a map of all of our posted bridges and the weights that they're posted at. We share that with some of our known haulers in the county, so they're aware of that as well. So,
Okay.
thank you for
Well,
mentioning
and not
that.
to negate the haulers any, but I mean, we're sending kids on a school bus over it. It's a little different in my mind.
Sure, we all work very hard to not let happen here what just happened in Pennsylvania. They're very fortunate. I mean, 35W bridge 16 years ago has woken us all up, I think. So we take bridges pretty seriously in this state.
Commissioner Pop?
I would just recommend that you share this with all our school districts, especially the deficient ones, and point out where they're at, and that it's their problem to make sure their buses don't run on these. I mean, it's not something that we're gonna police.
Exactly. And I just say, we need to make them aware of it.
Yep.
Right. They just,
Yep.
they may not be aware of it.
Yeah. And they should be aware of it.
And they should be aware.
I think by statute, it holds the driver of that vehicle responsible.
Probably.
Whether there was a permit to drive, if you were overweight and you applied for a permit and you chose to still go across that bridge, I think, yeah, the driver would be liable for it, regardless of the company it said to go over that or not, so.
And I think, a lot of these 5-ton roads that get posted were probably heavy empty.
Yeah.
We're still traveling them.
Well, exactly right. Vehicles, what's interesting, a lot of these bridges are coming, have a lot of serious concerns now, were built about 50 years ago. So back then, vehicles weighed a lot less traffic. That's really all they probably anticipated their life for. So we're coming to the end of the service life of these structures. So I have a lot of similar pictures to what we just saw here. The next bridge is in County Road 22. On the project we just overlaid. It is a concrete channel span, so we're seeing a lot of deterioration like that. That's the bottom reinforcing of steel. Why that's concerned is if you picture, this is an over-exaggeration, but the bridge, flexes like that. So you have these members at the bottom that are in tension, and that's what's causing this concrete to pop off. So if that although there's steel all through that, the bottom is of critical concern. If we were to lose that, we lose a lot of significant structural capacity if we lose the strength in these bottom reinforcement bars. The pile was of concern several years ago. We had actually addressed that and sandblasted and painted, but that's just denoting how thin that steel piling is at the top. Now this is opposite of the bridge we just saw, where below it was at the water level. Now we have significant section loss at the top. And why this is when water drains off the bridge, water has a tendency to stay on the surface until it finds a place to run down. So we put a lot of salt on our roads to make them passable and safe in the winter, but when those melt, this is the result of those kind of things. So, and this one's posted as well. Well, I'm going to the next bridge now. The next bridge is County Road 12, just outside of Rice. We just recently had to post this based on what we saw from our inspections. So this one's 26 tons for a single unit. Your legal weight for your tractor trailer units. But this is one of those things that if I get an overweight permit request, I would not approve that load to go on this route because of that bridge. We would not allow anything that grossed 80,000 pounds to cross that bridge. This is an example we did share. We know that Golden Plump or Pilgrims now, they have that annual permit that allows them to haul up to 90,000 or 97,000 pounds. I shared this map with them too to show them that this bridge just recently was posted. And they believe that, their routes they're not fully loaded. So that's still on them to make sure that they're not over 80,000 pounds going across that. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it just struck me now. When we look at these, it's a risk kind of analysis. We're losing, as the bridges age, it becomes more deteriorated, we're losing confidence, so to speak, in the ability to carry the weights that are traveling at. That doesn't mean somebody goes over that 90,000 pounds tomorrow, the bridge is going to collapse. But we don't know when, how many more times can you go across that bridge. So we get conservative and we're just restricting those overweights. So we will continue to inspect this bridge every year until it's replaced. We may have to, over time, before it's replaced, actually keep posting it down and down because it's more of a confidence thing. We're not as confident as we once, when it was built, that it has the ability to carry those weights. So that's why people that go across that or don't follow those say, I've driven across that and it doesn't collapse. Well, that's good. We don't want it to collapse. We just don't know when is going to be the last trip across that. So everybody should be following these weight limits.
Commissioner Pop.
Chris, we stuck a bunch of money in this bridge a few years ago when they overdone the deck and that. I mean, we didn't hear anything that it was going to be on the deficiency list then.
Yeah, I think, once again, this bridge is on timber piling. Right. And now we've learned a lot thanks to the droughts that we had this past year. We know that we need to find some better tools to be able to look at things under the water. Some of our big bridges, we have periodic underwater bridge inspections. That's a statewide consultant contract. The one over the Mississippi and Sartell, the one over Mississippi and Rice, they hire a consultant that uses scuba divers to actually inspect below the water line and look for things like this. Is that something that we need to start doing with these smaller bridges? So we have deterioration at the water line of the timber piling that's holding up the structure. Above the normal water line, things look really good. So you're right. We did a mill and overlay on this project. When we had the bituminous surfacing off, we put new waterproofing membrane over that. This is a channel span just like this bridge was. So we try to seal up those joints wherever those channels meet. At that time, we just weren't aware of the deterioration below the water line. And that's the thing with timber. These were built back in the late 60s, early 70s. About that time, they were changing the type of creosote that they used. Once that waterproofing protection is gone, they deteriorate pretty rapidly. Wood deteriorates pretty rapidly once it starts to rot. And so that's kind of what we're experiencing now. Increase in rapid deterioration. County Road 40, timber structure, just all the things added up together makes it structurally deficient and eligible for or replacement funds. And then CASA 13 is another one, a road that we haven't addressed in a while. Once again, the steel piling. Things that we were aware of and we've tried to combat by having the steel piling repainted. But right there at that water interface line is where we're seeing the deterioration of the piling. So all that said brings me to this document at the end. Recently, I was made aware of that we have some bridges that could be eligible for a federal funding program called BROS, which is an abbreviation for Bridges, Federal Bridges Off System. And so Bridge 05518, the one on County Road 58, and the one in CASA 22 could be eligible for federal funds. The problem is those are pretty expensive structures. Us looking at that, looking at the stream characteristics, the existing structure that's out there now, these will not be able to be replaced with a precast concrete box culvert. We'll be looking at replacing those with a bridge structure with piling or steel or concrete beams that span the whole structure, which puts those expensive, over $700,000 for each one of those structures. The benefit of that being federally eligible, up to 80% of that could be covered by those federal funds, which brings it, our participation a lot down quite a bit. County Road 51 would have to be some sort of local funds. This is a county road. County Road 22, CASA, we could use CASA funds to make up the local match. So that's kind of a new it's not, interestingly enough, it's not part of the new federal infrastructure. It's leftover money from the FAST Act that was passed in 2015. To make all of these bridges eligible, though, I would seek adoption of this resolution that kind of prioritizes us. The other thing I haven't mentioned yet, these federal bridges, the money isn't available until 2025, as most things with federal money goes. You're operating off of old policies to get future money. So that's where we would look at to maybe replace that in 2025 if we receive the federal money, which we should find out this spring. These other bridges, County Road 40, County Road 13, go through the traditional state bridge grants, which are typically funded year to year with state bonding. You'll hear that this legislative session when the governor has already released his bonding proposal, $120 million for local bridges. That's where we would be beneficial from a program like that.
Chris, you got the estimated project cost, is that at today's price and not 3 years from now? So what kind of a percentage?
Yeah, that's tough. You're right, good point. That is today's costs. That's the best information that we have. Things are crazy. We anticipate material prices to go up, although competition is going up too. So that may moderate some of the prices. We were pleasantly surprised with the bid openings that we had this past Friday, where we received 7 bids. 6 out of the 7 bids were at least 10% below our estimate, which was kind of shocking. Over the next 3, 4, 5 years, we anticipate to go up, but by how much, we don't know. The unit prices that we used, we calculated this estimated cost based on the deck area. And then we put in some factors based on projecting future traffic volume, needing wider lanes, wider shoulders, and a pretty conservative, I think, unit price. So it's today's dollars. I'm hoping that we're close when we actually get to construction. We're close to this estimate here. What the benefit of this federal money is, we would bundle those two projects together, the 05518 and 05515. So we're looking at, $1.5 million project, which would attract, I think, a lot of attention, which would drive competition, and hopefully we still get very competitive bid prices when it comes time to replace those.
Well, we don't have, I don't think we have a lot of choices but to go after the funding. Heck, I'd gladly pay that kind of.
No, that's true. We always have to go after.
Yeah.
We just don't have the revenue to replace bridges without it.
Right.
it's expensive. We will, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're gonna see more and more bridges need to be replaced, just when you look at the time frame of when these were built. We know they're gonna age out.
And I think we gotta give Chris credit. He's been pretty successful in the last few years that we've seen bridges we need to be replaced. We've been pretty successful at how you've been in getting the money.
Yeah. Well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
granted, it's taken a little time on some of them, but we've got it eventually.
Yeah.
What did we
Sometimes
do,
you just,
four
yeah, you have
last
to
year?
wait your turn.
What did we do, 4 last year? Or,
Yeah, we got 4 bridges.
Paid.
2 of them got completed, which we'll see next, and 2 of them, this summer.
That's pretty good,
So-
pretty good odds.
yep, good job, Chris.
It is funny. Everything's very cyclical. When you look back when these bridges were built, there was a time frame where they were building 2 to 3 bridges, a year. And the problem is when they're all the same age, they all age out about the same time too. So, the bridges are an interesting thing. I mean, traffic's still using them, but I think there's an economic impact to that too. If haulers and things, they can't drive fully loaded trucks across that, I think they'll tell you that there's an impact to their business right there if they can't replace these bridges in a timely fashion. So I would request that the board consider this resolution and adopt it.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to adopt the bridge priority resolution as presented by the county highway engineer.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Very good, thank you.
Keep going, Chris.
Yeah, well, while we're talking about bridges, I was asked to kind of bring back a presentation on the bridge construction that we did have. I think to a lot of people, maybe they've not seen this. So we were happy to get these bridges in this past year. Landwehr Construction was our contractor on this. So we had 2 bridges, one on County Road 50 and one on County Road 80. So there's the bridges here, L0030 and L5806. So this is that County Road 50 that coincidentally was mentioned earlier in the board meeting. An old timber structure that we replaced with 2 lines of precast concrete box culverts, 12 foot span by 7 foot tall. And then I want to point out this 12 foot by 8 foot tall box culverts. And why that was a request of our DNR permit. They request this quite often to make 1 foot deeper to allow sediment to actually build up in the bottom. They want to see that natural stream bottom for aquatic wildlife to pass through. So years down the road, if we get complaints that, we've got sediment built up in our box culvert, we need to clean it out, we need to check and make sure if that was intentional or not. Maybe as a requirement of the DNR, we had to build it that way. So there's the old timber structure that we had to replace. Narrow gravel road, a lot of you know, that was the concern, that rotten timber piling. They were once living, before they were used as bridge piling, we don't want them to be living again, but that's what you see here, is that they've rotted and started growing. But see it crushing out there, that bulging action. That's when you put something in compression, something's got to give, and it's bulging out there. Some more at that water line, severe deterioration. These planks back behind there, that's basically holding all the soil and earth that holds the road up behind it there. See those planks starting to bend out. It became such a concern on this side. These piles were rotted so bad that we were worried about them able to carry traffic. So we posted it down and tried to force everybody to use one side of the bridge. 16 tons, so 32,000 pounds for a single unit to cross this bridge. Once again, when the water was low this year, we saw things that we hadn't seen before. This gap was kind of alarming that possibly this could start, what if this was starting to erode away? We could lose the road too as we start losing material through these gaps in the planks. So once again, interestingly enough, if the piling stays buried and underwater, it's in good shape. It's at that interface where the water goes up and down and it gets exposed to oxygen where it rusts. If you can eliminate the oxygen from the wood piling, you're probably okay. Even though we tried to keep traffic onto one side, it was difficult to do that. As you can see here, just before the bridge was replaced, something wide came through. I think we know what it was. I think we know that there were some manure haulers in the area crossing this bridge. When you look at the posting, even combination units, 30 tons, 60,000 pounds, should have been the most weight that was crossing that bridge. Some of those manure haulers can push 100,000 pounds crossing this bridge. Right before, the week before, we were out there looking at this. This is a beam that's underneath that holds all those planks together. After we saw the damage to the siding and stuff, that had separated from those planks. If we lost this beam, then you lose the stability on all those planks. They start falling apart. Then the bridge is essentially gone. So we got this replaced probably not a minute too soon. So landwork construction. First, you got to demo the bridge. This creosote is a regulated waste, so to remove it, you have to have a contractor that's approved by the state to handle that and dispose of it. Landwear construction, thankfully, is. They were able to remove the structure with a tracked excavator just like this. One thing that's kind of critical when you do these, you are required by the DNR to keep stream moving through the project somehow, whether that's through the use of pumps, or we'll see later a diversion channel. So that's a big challenge when you're working in construction of these bridges, removal and installing a new one. You got to keep the stream flowing at the same rate as it's coming into the project. What we require also is a 10-to-1 slope. So you need equipment that can handle excavating out 10-to-1 slope. So every 1 foot rise in elevation, you need to go out 10 feet. So you lay these slopes back pretty far, which forces something like a crane to set those sections, those individual concrete culvert sections, to be able to reach out that far from the road where it gets delivered down to where it's needed in the hole. We do require a gravel base underneath those box culverts to set them on, to have a stable base to set them on. That's what it looks like inside the segmented section, 6-foot sections. You don't see them, they're on the outside. There are tie bars that keep those tied together. Years ago, they didn't used to tie those together, but that's been a common practice for 20, maybe 30 years, that they're tied with steel rods on the outside to keep them from separating over time. They are required to be inspected at the casting yard to make sure that they have the minimum number of reinforcing bars in there. It's epoxy coated reinforcing. They use the correct strength of concrete to cast it. And we make sure that when they come to the project that they're stamped with the project number, the date it was inspected, and the contractor. So we know that this came from Forterra. Landwehr was the contractor. The size was 12 foot by 7 foot tall. Oops. And that's our project. It was cast on 10/25, delivered to the project on November 3rd. So there it is being set to nice tiger stripe that you're required to seal those joints. Once again, we don't want to be losing sand and stuff through those joints. Over time, it may not seem like a big deal, but over a course of a life, 50, 75 years, you've lost all that material. You could lose the road on top of it. Then they have to grout in the joint in between the runs. And these little cups, those are holes that are used to pick it up by the crane. They put a metal device in there that lifts it, that hooks onto it. But they're required to fill those with grout or something, so we don't lose the road material on top of it sinking through. And then afterwards, since we're next to a stream, we're required to do rapid stabilization as soon as we're done grading the area, and that's what you see here. This is the hydro seed in mulch with a tackifier in it that sticks to the ground. And you have to do that immediately when you're next to a stream, in addition to having your silt fence and your bio log rolls to keep any sediment from leaving the project and entering the stream. That's kind of what it looked like when it was nearly finished. I think there was a little bit more shaping that needs to be done, and that'll happen this spring. Okay, County Road 80, a little bit bigger, triple run of box culverts, longer span, but we have less clearance because the roadway is a lot closer to the stream bed. So we need to make those a little bit fatter to carry that volume of water through. And once again, you'll see here this middle one is a foot taller to allow for that natural stream bottom to accumulate over time. This was a narrow roadway this was a township road that we took over 10 years ago from the township. We swapped our road, and traffic volumes have increased significantly on this road. This is the alignment of the future CASA 29 road as well. So, same thing, same story over and over. Steel piling, corrosion, through corrosion in it. There you can see the water actually rushing through the corrosion in the steel piling. An old timber deck, timber plywood with planks on top of it. The plywood is delaminated over the years and it's starting to fall apart. There it was shortly before we started work this year. No, that wasn't this year. That must have been last winter. Oh, I don't see it. This is covering it up. That's to show the bridge posting. Can I minimize this? Well, I don't know if we can see it. So there's a bridge posting sign over here. It was rated down to 8 tons. That was the max, so 16,000 pounds. A pickup pulling a bobcat shouldn't have been able to cross that, but we did see that kind of thing. So October, they had to remove the pavement. There they are excavating the old bridge out of there. Once again, because we have a triple run of box culverts, it's a little bit wider than the old structure, and we need to lay those 10-to-1 slopes back. Remember how I mentioned earlier stream management? This is how Landwehr, at least on this project, started to do that. This is actually the County Road 50. They pushed steel plates into the ground and then kind of pushed the dirt up against it to make a little temporary cofferdam. And on 50, they were able to handle this with pumps and pumping around it. County Road 80, they were not able to do that. There was enough flow, and then we had this rain at the end of October that blew out their temporary cofferdams, even with the use of pumps. So that was a 6-inch diesel-powered pump that they tried to do to keep water moving. It just wasn't enough. What they ended up having to do was build a bypass channel. So they had to actually excavate a bypass channel around where the box culverts were to be set to keep that water, that stream flowing through the project, which once you get the box culvert set, has to be removed. That's a lot of extra work on them and no additional compensation for them to do that. They had to bid that. One of those things as a contractor, you take that risk. I think we can, they think they can do it simply. Rain comes through and they have to do something different. There's no additional compensation for that. Just some pictures. They did get one of their excavators stuck trying to do that, dig that bypass channel. So I'm thankful that it was them and not us trying to excavate or remove that bridge. Just a picture of the gravel base. There they are. They've got one run of the waterproofing seal in. You see the cups in there to fill in the lifting holes. Riprap is required upstream and downstream of the culverts to basically, we call that energy dissipation. So you don't have erosion just immediately downstream of the culvert eroding the stream away. And that must be all my pictures. So kind of I feel like I was showing you my vacation photos, but that's photos of bridge construction this fall. Very similar construction we'll see this summer on 51 and 67 outside of town here.
I don't think I want to go on vacation with you.
Yeah. We might find different things interesting.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Commissioner Heinen will return soon. Any other things for Chris?
Yeah, that was just an informational.
Yeah.
item there.
Thank you for that.
Yep, no, thank
It's
you.
cool to see that, that stuff go in like that.
Yeah, box culverts, we like it. I mean, if conditions are right, within a week, you can get it excavated. Contractors like Landwehr can get it done, excavated and set within a week.
Chris, I assume even on County 50, there was riprap on both ends of that too then?
Yes, correct, yeah. So, we show that in our plans. DNR will require that. The big thing is that to control erosion, once you do all that construction, you disturb a lot of, vegetation that was probably established in the bottom of the stream. So anything we could do to minimize sedimentation, transportation, that's what we have to do in these projects.
Great timing.
All right. Any more questions about box culvert construction?
No.
We voted that you gotta go on vacation with him.
Yeah.
He said those are like his vacation pictures.
Yeah, no. Okay, with that, we're gonna move forward, right, Chris?
Correct, we can do that.
Professional
Action
Service
item.
Agreement, SEH.
So this is an action agreement. I believe that you had a copy in the packet. I don't know if at that time it had been signed, but, so this is a professional, services agreement with SEH to prepare, a construction plan to install the fiber, between St. Cloud and Foley. SEH seems to be excited to help us on it. There are some interim contract dates in there, one of them of which will come up pretty quickly. By the end of March, we want them to complete the topo survey, meaning they're gonna have to go out there and survey the MnDOT right-of-way along Highway 23 between here and St. Cloud. They have no concerns with getting that done. And we did put a completion date in there of December 31st, 2022, or is it 23? But there is some language in there, if the construction project isn't complete, we'll keep their agreement open, because we do want them to help us on the construction inspection and observation. So for some reason, which I don't think that's likely, but if for some reason a contractor can't get it all installed this calendar year, we'll keep this professional services agreement open until they've completed their work. So SEH can help us with the final inspection and anything that's required of the contractor.
Mr. Chair.
Was the Broadband Board?
Mr. Chair.
this?
Chris, do you want to, I know that their price went up, but you want to explain what happened there and stuff like that?
Yeah, so they gave us an original quote, but they didn't consider one of the things, the construction inspection, once we actually get to construction. And since we're going to be working in right-of-way, wanted to make sure it met the MnDOT QCQA process for plan approval. So that did increase the price a little bit. It means that they have to take a little bit extra care. Maybe they have to do another double check on their side to make sure it's going to pass MnDOT's muster and be approved.
It was money well spent.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we want to make sure that we're going to do things. We don't want to go all to this work and then have MnDOT not give us a permit to be in there right away, because they don't like something that we put in our plans, so.
Chris, was this put out for bids then too?
We went out for quotes, so this, interesting, we issued an RFP last fall, we had one respondent. SEH was not a respondent on that. That one respondent was $400,000 for the same amount of work.
They were out of Wisconsin, is that?
They were out of Wisconsin as well.
And that didn't include the work. It was just this package.
Wow.
This does include the work?
No.
No, that's what I was.
This is just putting it all together so we could bid it out.
Right.
Right.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kapinski or Chris, just for clarification, on the contract dollars, I understand there's an hourly rate there of a not to exceed, but that's only if they get into an hourly rate that's needed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they may or may not even get into an
Correct.
hourly rate.
Yep. Exactly.
And when we first brought this to the board, the budget was about 60,000, so yeah, we're over budget, but we added some things to it, so we're not putting that on the county to make sure that we're abiding by MnDOT and all that, so.
If the board does approve the contract, I will reach out to SEH to start setting up initial kickoff meeting, and I'll look for dates for that. So yeah, if this is approved, we're going to get the ball rolling here pretty quick.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of professional and technical services contract with SEH and authorize board chair to sign the contract.
And I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any other questions or discussion on this?
It's an exciting time. This kind of kicks things off.
Yep.
I'm excited about it.
You know, it seems like this is moving very, very fast. You know, even though we're in this, winter yet.
We're getting prepared.
Yes, I think
Okay.
we'll start seeing things move.
Great. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for all your help with this too.
I apologize for Sheriff Troy Heck for being 30 minutes late, but you're up next, sir.
He's been around long enough. He's used to it.
No
All right,
worries.
thank you.
That's the way things go, apparently.
Yeah.
He wants to talk to you about school buses at Bridges.
I didn't really word that appropriately, but I'm happy to have a conversation with you.
We'll have to talk later. Well, good morning. I'm bringing
morning.
before you a contract to
have Advanced Correctional Health take over the provisioning of jail medical for our inmates. As you recall, several weeks ago, I was here in front of you to talk about the ending of our relationship with Centricare. And at that time, I had told you that we were in the process of trying to negotiate a contract with a new medical provider. And so that's what you have before you. As I noted in the agenda item, as we entered the negotiations with ACH, we took the contract that we already had been using with Centricare and worked to adopt that contract to some of the particulars that ACH brings to the contract. So basically, the contract that we're providing for you today is very similar to the one that we've been operating under with Centricare for the last few years, with a couple of notable exceptions. The first is the cost. It is $3,000 more than we had negotiated with Centricare for 2022. What we get for that extra $3,000 though is 8 hours every weekend in nursing coverage, which is very important. That will eliminate another 2 med passes that our staff have to do, and additionally provide that daily check-in with our inmates that help make sure we're doing what we got to do and what we're required to do for the inmates that we're responsible for. It takes, again, a little bit more off the backs of our detention officers who are already doing a very, very complex, very difficult job. So we have that as an addition with this contract. And also, as I noted here, the contract has an automatic adjustment in it. The contract's based on an average daily population of 55 inmates. Every quarter, there's a reckoning for a per diem cost. So if our average daily population is below 55 inmates, we will get a credit for that. And if it's above 55 inmates, there will be an upcharge for that. And that helps just level out and address some of the concerns I think that we've all seen over the past few years with low jail populations and kind of matching what we're paying to the demand that's being placed upon the contractor that's doing our jail medical. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Mr. Pop?
So is this company's doing other counties within the area? Sure.
Yes, ACH has a large presence in Minnesota, and they're taking on more and more each day.
Okay. Did we work with them before?
Yes, so we had Centricare most recently, we had Men before that, and before that we had ACH, and we were with them for, I'd like to say, 3 to 5 years, memory serves.
Okay.
Commissioner Pinsky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, you had came to us before with a cost of a nurse for the weekends and stuff like that.
Yes.
Does this 8 hours cover what you were originally going for, or is this a little bit less than that? I guess where I'm going with this is if it's $3,000 more, and let's just say for another 3,000 more, if we got 16 hours, you know what I mean?
Sure. So the previous request I did have was for 8 hours of nursing on the weekend.
Okay.
And at that time, it would have been just 8 hours only on Saturday. ACH is willing to split that over 2 days.
Oh.
So I think this is a good starting point for ACH, and we can address what our additional needs might be in the future future contracts, but that would be something to keep an eye on.
Great job on this and whoever else worked on it. Thank
you.
you, Troy.
Yeah, I do like that 8 additional hours for the weekends.
I like the adjustment up or down too.
And the adjustment too.
Very good job.
All right. And in the future, I will be bringing another contract for the medical record systems. We're working on negotiating that right now. I think that we've identified a funding source for that as well. That isn't going to come out of the budget. So.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the correctional health medical service contract.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions or further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Troy.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Commissioners.
Next, Commissioner meeting updates. Who would like to start? Okay, I'll start.
Well, you got that in there quick.
I had only one,
Wow.
and that was the Historical Society. in the process of renovating the house, yep, Stanton House. So it's moving forward, slow. And they're finding out how expensive it is now.
To renovate.
Yeah, for the renovation.
Mr. Chair, if you're okay with it, I'll go
Yes,
next.
thank you.
All right. A week or so ago, we had a virtual extension committee meeting, which actually, to be very honest, I was surprised to find out that Sherburne County is now committed to our tri-county, actually will be a quad county, I guess, if this finally gets approved. So,
Even before our regional meeting?
well, and I was just gonna say, they're gonna be invited to our regional meeting the end of February to kind of have a little sit down and an explanation of how tri-county works and how it works successfully and what the expectations maybe would be for Sherburne coming in. And I think overall excited to have them on board. Just
Yeah.
want them to be aware that tri-county's been successful and we want to keep it that way. So anyways, they're gonna be coming in on our regional meeting the end of this month.
Right.
They're invited in to go over some of those things. And I think then we'll talk about it
I
after
think
that.
once we had it committed that we're not changing the rules for them,
Mhm.
they kind of, came to the agreement.
And I think we just want to bring it to one more step to make sure that they
Yeah.
understand how well this works.
So I'm assuming they wanted to change the rules up front right away before they were gonna
Oh,
join?
yeah, they
or-
started that way.
Oh, okay.
That's changed. Also had a Tri-County Solid Waste Officers meeting that I attended, and actually Commissioner Persky, Commissioner Schmeezing from Sherburne were also there with me, and we had a lot more discussion in regards to our ongoing issues with Pope Douglas in the contract. Nothing there has been settled yet. We did give Tim the idea, and Monty, maybe you're gonna be receiving a phone call, but the commissioners kind of had a consensus that maybe one option for us to look at is to have, without overloading our administrators, but to maybe have them talk about a way that Pope Douglas's financials could be presented to the Tri-County Solid Waste Board in a way that we understand it. Because, again, nothing there from Tri-County Solid Waste, I don't believe is accusatory, but we don't understand what they're presenting. And so it's really hard to approve a contract request when we don't understand the numbers that are presented. So after a lot of discussion that way, we thought, well, maybe we could simplify this down. Instead of going out and hiring an auditing firm or hiring a consultant, can we come up with a real simple way for Pope Douglas to be able to present this? And I know you've helped with this a little bit in the past, Monty, but you may be getting another phone call on that, I'm not
I
sure.
already have, Tim Ox stopped by and visited yesterday.
Oh, okay, great,
And a meeting has been scheduled then for next week,
perfect,
of the solid waste officers, and I'll be there. It's next week, yeah.
perfect, thank you very much. So that's kind of what that meeting ended up being about. The officers actually met after the commissioners left, and so they kind of sat in and listened on this for an hour or so while we discussed it, but, and then just for the board's update, Commissioner Kopinski and I have, tag teamed, and we're gonna be sitting on the Foley Area Care Board of Directors.
Okay.
They have their meetings at last Thursday of the month, and we both have conflicts, so we thought best way to do that is maybe tag team, and that way one of us would be there, so. We were able to kind of attend that the other night and kind of have a orientation part of it. Actually, we're gonna go sign our paperwork today, don't forget.
Yep.
And then we'll move forward with that, so just so you're aware of that, thank you.
I think that's great that both of you guys are on that.
I think it's a great community, board to be on.
And they were already very excited to have some potential future contacts through Commissioner Kavinsky, so. For their volunteers and fundraising.
I have made one connection, so.
Okay.
It'd be fun.
Great.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. Getting back to the solid waste financials. Financials are, in my opinion, if they're hard to read, there's some questions that are, and I applaud all you guys for digging into that and not just signing off. I think all the commissioners need a pat on the back to make sure that they're taking care of the public's money like this.
I have to be very, very honest, one of the most frustrating things for me is that this originally came up mid-November and here we sit. I mean, this should not take this kind of time
No.
to get an answer.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they come up with. I'm encouraged to hear that these guys are willing to step in and help out and figure that out for us.
Okay, next.
I can be quick. You took my thunder. That was the
done?
only
Wow.
meeting I had,
Wow.
so. That thing, it's been I've been working on a lot of things, but, that's the only meeting I had. Was,
I can go, so after our last board meeting on the 18th, we had the library board meeting. That night was quite lengthy. We have several new board of director people on there. One really, with the initial contact that I had was the person that used to be the superintendent of the Catholic school community of St. Cloud. She retired and she became the Stearns County rep on there. She's got some negotiation skills. She's got other skills that were there. So I think we can use her in a big capacity. And then we had, two commissioners that were appointed. We had a commissioner from Wright County that just quit. He doesn't want to be on the library board anymore. So Christine is on there from Wright County. She's coming back. And then the new Todd County, but both of them had other conflicts. They weren't able to attend to clear their calendar at that time. So we elected a new board chair and a new vice chair, and I'm the new board chair with Commissioner Lensmeyer as the vice chair.
Yeah, he had
Congratulations.
he had an article in the paper today
Oh, he did?
about the library.
Okay.
funding.
Hey, he's a library supporter,
He is,
I guess.
yeah.
So that, we've got our executive committee and our finance committee done. We haven't had our negotiating committee set yet. All these committees, which I found was pretty much are not of board approval. It's the chair's position to appoint these people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, I couldn't believe that, it does have some rules on how you go about. But they ended up with a $384,000 surplus, which we're gonna roll into the 2023 budget now. Just from staff, not having enough staff and everything like that.
Does that mean another price reduction next year for
Yeah,
us?
I would, I don't, we got new commissioners, or new people on the board. I think we're at 4 new people, so it may be a little bit more difficult to see how they treat this or whatever. A lot of discussion went into, they had a van that was pinning them to death, fixing it here, and they have a new one on order but won't get it in 2022. So there was huge discussion and ended up, Commissioner Wincher from Morrison County really says, spend no more money on this whatever van that they have. And we allowed them to go out and find a good used van at like $36,000 because he said there's no sense waiting for one that you need if we're gonna be spending $1,500 a month to fix this other one. So I understand they got the old one fixed for a lot less money, and they're gonna try running it until somebody, I believe, out of Uppsala finds them a new one, or a used one. So, that came from the finance committee. They were pretty adamant about not spending all this money on a used van that's got 350,000 miles on it. Then the other one that I was on the MICA annual meeting, or down to the MICA annual meeting. I thought it was really good. I thought it was, 9 or 10 legislators shows up. Some came, some were late. The biggest thing I got out of some of that was, they want these people to get down to St. Paul and they want them to work, and they want them to get their work done on time. They don't want it to be into exercession. And basically, some of them said, if you can't get your work done on time and what you're paid for, don't send it to the House and the Senate majority leaders and the governor to decide what we're gonna do for bonding and all that. Well, otherwise, we need to replace you.
How many years have we been saying that?
Yeah, but I mean, they were pretty adamant about that on some of the commissioners. That we had a study done by Dakota County on some of their housing situation, and
I've seen that
I thought
study.
that was really good. You got to realize that the counties that are doing this are much larger than we are. We don't have that capability to do anything like that. So, but yeah, it was well attended. A lot of people did not stay for the lunch they left, or the banquet they left before that. So it was pretty good. That's all that I had.
Okay, Commissioner Schlangen?
Yeah, during the banquet, we got to talk to representatives at our table too. So, yeah, it was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
I had a Minnesota Transportation Alliance meeting, and they're working with colleges and for events, to be able to get more people involved with what our state wants to do. They're looking for a consultant for event planning and programming. The executive, let's see. In March, they're gonna be having their transportation bills. And then they have the beginning of the month, they'll be in March, like the same time we're supposed to be having the other meeting. They're gonna that first weekend, the end of February and first week of March, they have their big conference too. First steps. They're looking at a Spanish outreach. They have 135 partners that they work with, 28 nurses. Working with the MESH program, licensed parent coordination. They have, in Stearns County, they have 6 nurses. And pretty much, that was pretty much with them. Then we had the BEP annual membership meeting.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And working with the Finley Engineering.
I think most of you guys attended that, correct?
Were we all on that one?
Yeah, I
So we're pretty
was
good
not
there.
able to attend it, actually.
Then-
Actually, my phone popped up when I was out of town. Forgot about it.
Then I also, for the Central Minnesota Council on Aging, I looked at the accessory dwelling event that they had. And they have over 1,000 single-family zoning districts, 56 they worked on 56, let's see, that was on the detached ones. Basements, they worked on 56. Garages, about 70. And with the attached ones, they're increasing every year. They're age-friendly. And they're working with the Section 8 zoning. They have to work with some local ordinances for parking requirements, and most of them, they don't have extra vehicles that they need to make room for, but some of them they need to work with that's what they have their ordinances for, to get the parking in there. Doing the fair housing. I'm working on cluster developments so they can decrease that problem with the parking. They're working with county assessors, the city attorneys, chambers of commerce to get all the policies in place to make sure that they can keep. They have to have somebody that lives, an owner or somebody that lives on the property to be able to have an accessory for somebody else to live there too. All right.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Done. Thank you. Commissioner concerns?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I really don't have a concern. I just want to, from the start of the meeting, I think I wanted to bring up one other thing and get a consensus. Is everybody fine with putting in the packet anything that was public knowledge? For the
Residency?
Yeah. I know we're still waiting on Sherburne County's full file, but anything that's public knowledge?
My opinion, yes.
Okay.
It's just me, though.
Yeah, I think if it's public,
Commissioner, you're talking about information that came from our legal counsel that's public.
or investigations and stuff like that, just anything that would be public, put it out there,
Okay.
so everybody has a chance to see it in the.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay.
That was all I had.
Okay. Set committee of a whole meetings.
All right. Here we go.
That
First,
doesn't sound
you are invited to the Career Solutions Annual Meeting.
No.
That is Thursday, February 10th at 3 p.m. This is, it's an annual event that Career Solutions put on, and typically what they'll do is they'll invite clients in to sort of offer, stories of how they've gone through the program and successes and what have you, and again, so you can either participate in person or virtually. That's February 10th, 3 p.m. The in-person location will be, of course, St. Cloud Tech College on Northway Drive, or it can be done via Zoom. So maybe to help Beth out, perhaps we could go down the line here and you could tell us who would like to go, and if so, what would be your attendance preference, either virtual or in person? So just kind of start with Commissioner Slungen.
I can be virtual.
Virtual, okay. Commissioner Johnson?
I'm not sure. I have a TRICAP
Okay.
meeting that day, so I'm not sure.
Commissioner Heinen?
I'm chair of that, so yes, I will be there.
In person.
I am gonna be out of town on a fishing trip.
And I'll be in person.
Excuse me?
In person.
In person, okay.
Oh, I thought you
Got
said
that, Beth?
prison.
He's driving
who
over
knows?
bridges with school buses. It's gonna be-
10 days away, man.
Alrighty.
It's 55 people, you know.
Alrighty, so, I know Commissioner, we had some conversations about having a committee of the whole to discuss kind of the future of jail operations with Sheriff Heck, considering populations, staffing, those issues, I think long-term sustainability of jail operations in general. So of course, Troy stuck around for that. We'd also like to discuss with you the proposed new human resources position that was approved in the budget, but subject to further board review. So Johanna is here for that. So those are two good issues to put together perhaps. If there's time, would you also want to possibly talk about the use of the local option sales tax and this concept of economic development?
Yes.
So I see Chris is still here too. So I guess it's just a challenge of finding a date that's gonna work for everybody.
Commissioner Pop?
So on the local option sales tax use, that was pretty set in stone when we adopted that. I don't, 25% for economic development,
I think the real issue, what did economic development mean? And I know there was a lot of discussion that it meant paving gravel roads. It's probably good actually to reassess that question. Is it paving gravel roads? And maybe getting deeper, well, what gravel roads? In other words, are there some parameters you'd like to follow? Well, which gravel roads?
right.
Ones that have potential? What would be some good parameters to guide Chris in the future regarding which gravel roads to choose?
I think the driving factor in this was, you know, for paving gravel roads was we sold it to the public on that we will make a effort to move forward.
Right.
To do a few of these things.
Yeah.
And so forth, you know, and granted, we're only into what, 3 years now, Chris?
We're entering our third year.
Third year, so we haven't had the opportunity as of yet. But, you know, you'll hear it more and more if we get some, you know,
Yeah.
some steam up,
It
so
just
that's
seemed
probably
like
good.
it's a good to review that concept and possibly even maybe commit a policy to writing as to what economic development means.
Mhm.
And further, if it's gonna be paving gravel roads, well, what are some parameters you'd look to help guide that decision? You know, is it
Yeah.
good buildable land on either side? Are there plats already there? You know,
And
is
the
it-
condition of
does
the
it have
road,
potential?
So
Chris, I'd
Rock,
like-
I've got Roxanne making a map of where our existing new plats are from this year. And she's actually going back 5 years to see where all the new construction and everything was put on roads. So that'll give us a little better idea
You know, I
of
think
what
too,
is happening.
once you pave that first gravel road and the word gets around the county, I would imagine you're gonna get swamped.
Yeah,
Requests to pave my road,
We
pave
will.
my road. Anything it'd be nice to have some parameters to hang your hat on and say, look, okay, these are the parameters we're gonna follow to make these decisions. It gives you, I think, something to give people.
You know, Commissioner Pop, you and I have been in this since the beginning, so
Right.
we understand and we know what's all in it. I think this is also for the new commissioners too, of what our vision was back then when we first started this.
Mr. Chair, Chris, when do you foresee we'll have 2021 numbers on the local option sales tax?
I think we have those now.
Okay, so
We
they
have
could be
total-
presented or talked about at a cow.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's look at some dates then. February, yeah, okay. So here we sit February 1st. What's next week looking like for folks? Let's see here. How about Friday of next week? The 11th.
I'm gonna be
Commissioner
gone.
Gopinski's on vacation.
Yeah, fishing.
it shouldn't be.
Our Super Bowl trip.
You know, we've talked about these interviews. Well, Commissioner Kapinski, when will you be back in?
I'll be coming back on the 14th.
Like when?
I'll probably be back by, I don't know, noon, 1.
When are you leaving?
So, I mean, you back in town by noon or 1 or back at the airport by?
No, I'm coming back from Red Lake,
Oh, you're driving, okay.
so we should be back by then.
How about Wednesday the 9th?
Wednesday the 9th.
I'm not available then. I actually have a meeting that day to see if I get any more federal money for roads, which I think definitely has an impact to this discussion.
Okay.
You gotta go to that.
Yeah.
7th or 8th?
What?
7th or 8th?
Could we do the 7th after the broadband
The
committee
8th, we
meeting?
have a public hearing tentatively set for.
What?
Public hearing, it must be for.
Well, that's the landowner meeting,
Yeah,
it's on
that's the
February the
land- the
8th,
landowner.
so
So we're still talking about Wednesday the 9th?
Chris is not gonna be.
Chris
I will
isn't
not be
available.
available
No,
the
Chris
9th.
won't
Okay,
be
sorry.
here, so.
11th, we'll have to move it to the week of the 15th. Or 14th.
So what about the 15th after the options, the 15th after your board meeting?
That's a lot of discussion to discuss after board meeting. We're already at 11 o'clock here and we're
That's
not
true,
done.
yeah. There's the fatigue factor.
Wednesday the 16th?
For me personally, I will be out of state
And then I leave
the 16th to the 23rd.
Okay.
I leave the 17th.
An undisclosed location. This is an old joke, I think about that or
What
something.
time are your negotiations on the 14th? Or your interviews, sorry.
We don't
Excuse
know
me?
that.
What
We
time
don't
are
know
your
yet.
interviews? You don't know yet?
Know that yet.
We're gonna have to wait till after the 23rd then, until people get back.
Yeah. So it looks like I have on my calendar the 24th in the morning there'd be a BEP board meeting.
Yeah.
So
That's usually over with by 9.
Sorry, I'm gone
30.
that day.
Oh, you're
yet.
gone, okay.
I'm not back till late that night.
to when?
I won't be back until the 25th, basically. I get
The
back in-
25th, okay. So we need to go in the next week then. Yeah. You know, these issues are important, but they're not urgent.
Urgent, right.
So, all in good time. So we're now in the week of March, excuse me, it's the week of February 28th.
When's
We're now
AMC?
into.
You guys going, AMC is when?
AMC legislative is that week.
Second and third?
Yeah, that's gonna be a busy week.
Ledge conference is when again?
Second and third.
AMC, second and third, right?
Second and third, okay.
What about Monday, the 28th?
And that's when Transportation Alliance is on that week.
They can wait.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
those,
Secondary committees.
those are secondary committees. This is more important than
So,
them.
yeah, that, Troy, Johanna, I see a thumbs up. Chris,
28th.
thumbs up.
The 28th?
The 28th? Monday the 28th?
We gotta be done. We have a 10 o'clock regional extension committee that day.
Oh, that's right. That'll take,
So that.
I can't make that, I can't come to full Embiid in St. Cloud by 10 o'clock.
Sorry.
Did we already rule out the 7th next week? Oh, you can't?
No.
Okay.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, everyone's getting out of here. What's the matter? Don't you like Minnesota?
Not this month.
Well, not to minimize it, but can we do the other items and not Johanna's? I mean, we could do,
Sure.
we don't have to do them all together.
Maybe we
No, I
could
just-
fit Johanna's in after the board meeting on the 14th.
That's true. If we
15.
can limit that
I
to an item or
don't,
two.
you know, when we ask you to come out here, I definitely wanna, ask you to come out here for more than just half hour, so.
No, absolutely,
Make
but-
it a good use of your
But you're talking
time.
about jail and, local option sales tax.
Okay.
I think we could do that and then,
Monday, the 7th. After the broadband committee meeting,
yeah,
so 9:30.
yeah.
So hang on just a second here. Trying to do this on my phone.
And then when Johanna gets back, we can do hers.
I think we could fit her in right after the
Oh,
board.
sorry,
meeting.
yes, right after the board meeting on the 15th.
14th. Is it 14th or 15th?
Board meeting's the 15th.
15th.
So, excuse me, I'm trying to catch up here. So, what date you talking about here next week?
February 7th for the local option sales
February
tax
7th.
and jail population.
Now, we do have a broadband meeting that
So,
morning.
so 9:30 then.
9:30.
Okay.
Have this one at
So
night.
broadband meetings start at 8:30. You think we'll be done by 9:30?
Yeah, because we're gonna be meeting right here. I don't think we're gonna have a ton to
Hard
talk
stop
about.
it at 9:30. It is what it is.
Let me urge you to push it to 10. Is that too late?
Okay.
Okay,
10? So then we'll continue as a committee of the whole and to address jail issues and local option sales tax. Okay. Can we go ahead and then schedule I'm sorry, did I hear you say we would do the committee of the whole to discuss the HR issue after?
After
the
the
February
board.
15th meeting.
Okay. So upon conclusion of county board, have a committee of the whole to discuss the HR position. Okay? Okay. That work for everybody? Troy's a thumbs up again? Okay, let's see, is that my, oh, Bob is with us
Bob,
to
yep.
discuss scheduling the quarterly human services committees of the whole. Bob?
Good morning. Those are typically March, June, October, and December, September and December, and they're the first Monday of the week, so I would suggest that we continue on. So the next one would be March 7th from 10 to 12, if that would be all right.
That would work for me. I may need to leave a little bit early, but
Yep.
do that.
Does March 7th work for everybody?
Yep.
March 7th?
We can also start earlier as well.
And typically we'd start those at 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily sure why, but that's kind of how it always worked out, but.
What
Yeah.
works better for your employees, Bob? Or there doesn't
I
work?
think anytime, I would say probably either 9, earliest is probably 9, although we could probably do 8 o'clock as well. People are supposed to be here at 8. I think that if it's 9, it gives them time to have last minute preparation.
I would say do it at 9.
9, okay.
9 o'clock.
I would myself prefer 9 o'clock.
Yep.
March
If
7th,
that
and
works,
what's the
Bob.
next one? And then this
9
quarterly
to
thereafter.
11 would be fine with us,
Okay,
going forward, correct?
Yes. Starting March 7th. Correct, Bob?
Yes.
do you want all them dates set?
I think it's good to go ahead and get them on the calendar now.
Okay.
So have you, can you take us through the rest of them, Bob, then? So you're starting March 7th?
June, September, well, actually, hold on, I'll give you the exact dates. Then it'd be June 6th,
Okay.
September, well, actually, September, we have a problem because I think we always have a problem with that one because it's Labor Day.
Yeah.
So I think in the past, we've taken the second Monday on that one,
Which is,
9/12.
the 12th.
okay.
Okay.
And then I think we've had conflict with December, as a matter of fact, as well, because you all have AMC,
Yes.
conference. So we could go the 12th there as well.
Okay.
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 Or we could certainly just move them all to the second Monday as well.
I say we keep them.
Keep them.
We'll keep them as is for now.
So March 7th,
Okay.
June 6th, September 12th, and December 12th at 9 a.m.
Yep.
in the Human Services third floor conference room. That's all we had. Do we need to recap? Everyone okay, or do we need to recap? We're good?
Well, she'll send it out to us also.
Yeah, she'll-
Yeah, we'll send it out
Beth will
soon.
get it to us.
Move to set the cows, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Thank you. So we are now adjourned. 11:16. We'll take a couple of minutes and then we'll get into you, Chris.
Shannon was calling, she's letting me know.
Thank you.
Chris, anything to add to
No.
the agenda? Anybody got anything to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 3, approve or amend minutes to Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the minutes from the Tuesday, January 18th meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Number 4, set a time and place for a public hearing on viewers report. Chris.
All right, so at the last meeting, we talked about looking at March 9th and doing it at Henry's Event Center. And so since that time, I have confirmed that we have a reservation on that day. Now to make it official and to send out notice, we just need the board to set a time to start. And I don't know if there's any desire to separate the rural ditches from the one that's more urban. That may be, a suggestion, since everything but ditch 3 has a similar process on how they arrived at the viewer's report and how they arrived at those values, whereas ditch 3 is a little bit different approach. Maybe it's beneficial to have that hearing separate.
Mr. Chair, Chris, are you thinking County Ditch 3 first or last?
I don't know if it really matters. Maybe it's beneficial to have it first, and then if anybody's there for ditch 3,
Right.
their concerns can get heard and they can clear out, and we can do the rest of them later.
I would have to agree ditch 3 should go first, because it's a municipality that's gonna be involved in ditch 3.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to set the time and place for the public hearing for the viewers report and to authorize the board chair to sign. It'll be March 9th at Henry's Banquet Center and Catering, and also to note that County Ditch 3 is first on the agenda for the day.
I'll second.
Okay,
What was that start time?
We need a time.
And I'm sorry,
30,
what was it?
10:30.
I think it says 8:30 on there.
8:30.
Yes, I'm sorry, 8:30 a.m. Thank you.
I'll also second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Chris, did you get a hold of Sauk Rapids? Did you get a hold of the viewers?
Yeah, so we're still, I shared a lot of information with them. They're still looking for some more information. We may just end up coordinating a meeting with them prior to the landowners meeting and see if we can work things out there. It's just, they just want to look at the information, not that they're questioning it or disputing it, so.
Right, okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, is that safe to say for all those ditch systems? Because I do have individual orders for the board chair to sign, so if it's the same time for each of them, I'll just go ahead and list all of them. And then, that's how the publication and the notification will go out, 8:30.
Correct.
Do you need the motion amended for that, or is that okay?
You could probably just amend and add it to your motion, yes.
Okay, so then I'll move to amend that motion to include County Ditch 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 14. Again, with County Ditch 3 being first on the agenda at 8:30 a.m.
Second that again.
Okay. You got an amended motion, second. Any other discussion on this? Now to call the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carries. Anything else in front of us? Just